What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. This is the CanesInSight Daily Podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Massive recruiting weekend. We've done like 3 podcasts on already. We're going to keep on doing it, still gathering information, but wanted to talk about what is Miami's path to the number 1 class, to a top 3 class. We get a lot of questions. What does it actually look like in reality, realistically, based on what we know? So we will get into that. Also, of course, Canes baseball. Tough loss yesterday in a massive game tonight. Regional final against Southern Miss in Hattiesburg. Crazy environment. Going to be a lot of fun. And hopefully the Canes can keep the magic rolling, man. This is going to be the biggest Canes baseball game in at least 3 years. I don't know. This feels like a big one just because of everything that took to get there. But we'll talk about that and a lot more, man, because the comments are already going crazy. You guys love these morning shows. First, some folks that, morning, night, middle of the night, you call them, chances are they're picking up. That is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
This is a great comment here. Canes Cats Heat 305 said he needed painkillers after last night's baseball game because of his legs. I'm sure it was because of your legs.
Because of your legs? What were you doing? Like squatting? Like lifting? Like playing soccer? How did your legs from standing up too much? Like how did your legs get hurt so bad that you need painkillers in a 12-5 ball game that was only competitive for a couple innings when we looked like we might be coming back? And the first, couple at bats of the first top of the first.
I will say, I knowing Canes Cats Heat 305 in real life, I did think I heard him a couple times on the broadcast, like yelling. I'm pretty sure it was him. So let's go, man. Take all the PKs you need for tonight's game, man.
Yeah, man. It's the big one. So. Leave it all in the field. It's win or go home, right? We don't want to go home. Want to head to, I guess, Louisville, right? Most likely. So, no, man, excited about that. It's a fun show, man. It's recruiting is so hot and heavy right now. It's amazing to put, we've done these kind of like mock classes and dream classes and all these kind of things. And look, just for clarity's sake, this is not even a mock class because the visits are going on right now. So it'd be kind of foolish to do it that way. Plus, I'm still gathering information. But I would say in terms of a projected class, in a dream situation, there's still enough legitimate, realistic possibilities on the board that we could talk about top 3 class, top 1 class, etc.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is mathematical, pretty much, right? Understanding what the numbers are and the weight behind what each commitment would be. But it's great to see that we're even having this discussion at this point of the season, because we understand how much the calendar has been pushed up, right? It's not like before where you say, well, we'll see what happens during the season and you can close strong after the year. You were hoping for that last year. That wasn't necessarily the case, right? You didn't finish as strongly in terms of landing a few of the elite guys that you wanted to add. So I think, not that they didn't try to do that last year necessarily, but to me, D, it seems like from the outside looking in, they've really put more of a sense of urgency on getting these things done now. Before guys even end up taking, like, I know visits happen, but it seems like they tried to push to get these things done before guys make other trips.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know how realistic that is because it's a business and, there makes no sense really to come in and shut down and not take trips. It didn't make that much sense before when you had free visits. Now we're talking about like real money with NIL negotiations. So I wouldn't, if I was a kid, I would take all my visits every time. I don't see any reason to shut it down, especially it's a summer.
I mean, if we're being real, there are incentives behind them shutting it down.
Right. If that's the case, then you think about if you know where you're going to be. But, my view is if you're a great player there, it's always going to be there for you. So that'd be sort of my thought on that situation.
Yeah. But in general, it seems like they're this calendar, as we know, it's been pushed up, but at least it seems like a real concerted effort to get it done earlier rather than later, at least with these elite guys.
Yeah, well, look, either way, it's going to be early compared to our old calendar, right? Because now you have the official visits. And
I mean, I'm just talking about even last year, though, Deke.
Yeah. Last year,
you had Pickett, you had Hanks, who were still in the balance. I don't see, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see this Tristan Keys thing dragging out into the season. I don't see like a Lamar Brown. I don't know what he's said out there, but the way that things are happening, and I'm not saying it's going to be Miami. We'll get into this more now in a second in detail, but I think his process has kind of been accelerated a bit with some of the stuff that has happened this weekend.
Yeah, let's just get right into it, Pete. So, I'm using the class calculator, which is something you could do on 247. Basically allows you to calculate, the class and in a hypothetical situation, what it might rank. And you don't know where that's going to rank necessarily because everybody else is kind of a moving target with their own rankings. But you could look at historical, like, hey, this total number, 300, right, as your total score. That's probably going to get you a top 3 type class. So, there's different variations of this. I wanted to try one. Let's call it the realistic home run class here, Pete. And I'll talk about all these guys and as I go through. This is what I call the realistic home run class, which means you could see a path to this class when there's big ticket items at one position. Let's say like 2 5-star receivers. I went with one instead of the other just because of finances. That's not guaranteed, but you pay a ton for one. It's hard to pay a ton for the other, right? That's just kind of how it goes. So it is realistic in that sense, but it assumes you get major targets pretty much across the board. So this is what I call a realistic home run class. This is not a projection, but just, some guys that I think we have a chance, and I'll just walk right through it. Quarterback, Darion Coleman, committed. He's not going anywhere. His ranking is only going up. He's still a 3-star in 247 because of just the size, really, at 6'1", slight. He has a big Elite 11 performance, wins Elite 11. You can see him becoming a consensus 4-star, so I'll bump him up a little bit. But he's pretty much locked in. The only movement with him is going to be his actual rating. Running back, Derek Cooper, visited this weekend, had a great visit. Hear him talk about the way he wants to be used, right? They compared him to Tavon Austin, who Deshaun Dawson had at West Virginia. Obviously, Cooper's got about 40 pounds plus on Tavon Austin. But I think what the idea is you're not just a running back that we're just going to pound the ball. We're going to give you jet sweeps. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to find ways to get you the ball because of your speed. So that's a pitch that he liked. Everybody likes to be kind of special, right? And just knowing how badly we want Derek Cooper, I've believed for a while that he will be in this class. So even this is the realistic home run, and obviously if Cooper would be a home run, I do think we will get Cooper, at least based on what I know right here on June 2nd. I'll correct it as it goes. Javion Mallory, more traditional running back MVP of the Under Armour camp over Derek Cooper, actually. 4-star player from West Boca. He's committed. He's not going anywhere. So you can lock that one in. Receivers where it gets interesting. So I think we take 4 receivers based on what I know now. And what I try to do is balance, like, hey, listen, you get this, it might be tough to get that, right? Because just finances, etc. So here's what I had as my 4 receivers. Number 1, Tristan Keys. Obviously, if you want to land a top 3 class, number 1 receiver in the country who's visited 3 times unofficially, potentially a 4th unofficial visit. That's somebody that you're going to have to close on, right? Not going to be easy, going to be a battle to the end. But if you want to, again, make this surge to the top of the recruiting rankings, this is the kind of guy you got to get. So I put Tristan Keys in this realistic home run class, number 1 receiver in the country. LSU, he's committed there. He told us that Alabama and Tennessee were the other schools that were really recruiting him pretty well. I think the fact that he's visited unofficially so many times, the Adidas thing, the fact that he's connecting with players on the team, which I think is a plus. He always talks about Miami having the number 1 offense last year, so he likes the on-field product, which is different than receivers maybe in the past that we've missed on, right? You think about all the South Florida guys we missed when we had bad receiving cores and bad offenses, and they said, no, not for me. I think Tristan Keys is a little different in that regard because he could just say, hey, number one offense. I'm going to the number one offense. So I think that
and I've said this before. I feel like he's the type of guy. You've talked about his personality, his confidence, how he carries himself. He probably looks at it like they had the number one offense and none of those guys were drafted. Like I know what I am from a talent standpoint, and it's not knocking those previous guys, but he's wired that sort of way mentally, where he's probably looking at it like, man, what could I do if I get it in this offense, knowing what my skill set is.
Yep, agreed. And talking to his agent a little bit, they know the Miami's quarterback situation is going to be strong, right? Because it's either going to be Beck, if Coleman or Nickel pops, and then also, let's say Beck has a good year, this transfer quarterback is going to be lining up across the corner to come to this offense. So I don't see a lot of trepidation on the quarterback front. But look, this is big time recruitment. Certainly not like a silent commit or anything like that. This is a battle, and it's kind of like Jackson Cantwell, man. It's a battle that Miami is in. But look, Miami's been in those battles and lost. So that's why recruiting's fun. That's why we go live every day to talk about it. And that's why I'm going to be digging in on the bank. But Tristan Keys, my personal confidence level talking to him and being around that whole environment and having seen him multiple times here on campus, I think we got a real good shot there.
Yeah, I know you talked about him a lot, more this weekend, but just my last thoughts on it is definitely, and we said this before when we interviewed him. I said right at when we left talking to him the first time, and it was just you and I was like, I think he's going to LSU. Like, he really likes LSU, but that Miami interest is real. Now, when you talk about LSU, obviously he rattled off their recent run of receivers. That was something that was big to him. This was months ago when we spoke to him. But I think as the season, not as the season progresses, but I just think as the questions at LSU kind of are still there, the momentum that Miami has right now heading into the season. And this is where I think a Jackson Cantwell pickup was big too, right? Just kind of subconsciously. I'm not saying that Jackson Cantwell is going to be the reason that Keys comes to Miami, or, if he does choose to come here, but that sort of positive momentum is a bigger deal than people realize in a recruitment like this.
100%. Keys mentioned Cantwell. I forgot which interview he did, but one of the interviews he did, his exit interviews, he mentioned that they just got the number one tackle, of course, Jackson Cantwell. And you wonder why Mario and everybody, went so hard on Cantwell, not just recruiting wise, but financially. It's not just getting a player that you think is a future top 10 pick and a great kid. It's the momentum factor, to your point, Pete, that it has an impact on other kids as well. So there's a lot of reasons why they do it. And obviously you're feeling the momentum here. So going down again, this is a realistic home run class. This is not a projected class. I'll get you that class when I have more information, and it's going to be more solid. I'm not just going to throw that kind of thing out there, but let's just have some fun today with a projected realistic class as we go down the line at wide receivers. We got Tristan Keys. Now we move on to Vance Spafford here, who is a wide receiver from Orange County, slot receiver with elite speed, which is a combo you don't always see. Very similar to like a Tank Dell, I would say, is a comp for Vance Spafford. We talk about this offense. Spafford said he visited unofficially, which is a theme you're going to see with a lot of these guys on the realistic projected class, because when you visit unofficially places, especially multiple times like Keys, you become a realistic possibility. Spafford visited unofficially. It's a Georgia commit, right? Just like Keys is an LSU commit. So we're talking about flips. Spafford was a Georgia commit. He was a Georgia commit when he visited unofficially. He set up a ton of OVs unofficial while he was a commit, including Miami. He said after his Miami visit publicly, this was my favorite visit, meaning his visit to Miami, right? So that was big. He's talked about how he's faster than Restrepo, not knocking Restrepo just to say, Restrepo was first team All-America and I could be in the same offense faster. Tank Dell led the nation in receiving with sort of a similar physical profile to Vance Spafford. So all those things are good. And if he liked this visit and he said this was his best visit on the unofficial, I think him coming down, he's going to like it again. So I like that mix, and I know Miami values Spafford extremely high. Georgia, who knows what they're doing? They got a lot of stuff going on, right? They got to build their defensive line. They got to keep local guys happy. They got a lot of stuff going on in Georgia. So, is that a battle I think is winnable for Miami? Yes. You beat Georgia for Night Carr, who Georgia wanted. You've beaten them for receivers before. I don't think it's as tough as a battle as it would be for like a big D end or something like that, especially this guy's from California. He's not from the Deep South. So he's leaving regardless if he's leaving California, which it looks like he probably will be. So, I think that whole situation sets up well for Miami. I know Miami really wants him. But by the way, we'll get some comments on baseball in the chat. We're going to get a nice little baseball discussion here right after we talk about this class. So don't worry. We'll get into the baseball here. Let's see. Oh, Rico Smith saying, what's going on, fellas? Can you see Camden Portis flip to Delaware State where his dad is coaching? It's kind of like a Sanders family thing. I don't think so. I mean, his dad was there yesterday. He seemed pretty happy bouncing around. His dad wants what's best for his son. With Shador, it's quarterback, probably a little different, I think, because Camden Portis, quarterback's a quarterback. A guy like Camden Portis, there's not that many DBs getting picked out of Delaware State in the draft. I don't know what you think, Pete.
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that it's his dad's legacy school probably keeps him at Miami. If it was a situation where his, I don't know, maybe his dad wasn't as tied to the school as Portis is with Miami, then maybe it's an easier move to make. But I would think he ends up at Miami. And then look, if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, you always have that to fall back on. But
yeah, I agree. They seemed happily committed yesterday. I can tell you that. Ethio appreciate you. Good morning, D-Money and Pete. Hit the like button, lads. Yeah, like and subscribe to the show. Appreciate everybody on right now. He says, grateful to come across CanesInSight. Is by far the best source for Canes info, especially for those of us who do not live in Florida. Appreciate you, Ethio Kane. Ethio, let us know in the comments where you're at, because we like to shout out all the.
He's DC.
Fans. Oh, he is DC. Oh, there it is.
Right. He said it last.
Yeah, we were talking about the Ethiopian restaurant. So he's there in the heartland. Shout out to Ethio Kane. So let's see here. So I mentioned Vance Spafford. I think that's a realistic in a home run situation. Next receiver, Samarian Wingo from St. Augustine. Talked to him yesterday. He likes Miami. It's him and Florida Miami battle there, I think. Big, tall receiver, plays in basketball. The reason I went with Wingo instead of Calvin Russell, the 5-star, is, if you replace Keys with Calvin Russell, I wouldn't be surprised in that one. And I've heard nothing that says like we can't get Keys and Calvin Russell. I've not heard that at all. This is just me sort of projecting and saying, the money it's going to take to get a Russell, the money it's going to take to get a Keys, with some of the other names that are on this list that I'm going to go through. If you're doing a Grand Slam class, I think you put a Russell in there. But for this exercise, I wanted to keep it a little more realistic and just have one of those two. But if you replace Keys with Russell, I don't think it changes the stats that much as far as where you end up ranking. So that's why I went with Samarian Wingo, who's a Florida-Miami battle, visited this weekend, likes Miami. And then final receiver in the class, I went Jason Lopez. You could have gone to other names here, but I know how bad Miami wants Jason Lopez. I know how badly he wants to play there. It's the basketball thing is the tricky part, I think. Football wants him bad.
He was visiting NC State this weekend, and they had him, on the basketball. He was in his basketball visit as well.
So yeah, that's what we have to figure out. I know football wants him bad, and I know he wants to be at Miami. So hopefully they can make that work. So I put Jason Lopez in there at wide receiver. Tight end, no surprises. We could get 3. Zachary Turner, who visited this weekend, really likes Miami. SMU is going after him hard. He's a local guy. So in this scenario, I had Messiah Hampton staying home in Syracuse, and Zachary Turner, the tight end, staying home in SMU. Those are 2 guys who visited this weekend that really like Miami, but they have local schools that are pushing hard. So let's give them the local school win. So let's say 2 tight ends. So we know Miami's after 3 tight ends. Let's get the other 2 to Miami. That's going to be Hezi Kent, which is a Miami-Florida battle. He's up in Brunswick right there on the Florida-Georgia line in Georgia. And then Israel Briggs from Visalia, California, right there by the Sierra Nevada. He's been linked to Miami, crystal ball to Miami, top 10 tight end in the country, fast, versatile, raw, but great ability. So I'll go with Israel on that one, and with Hezi Kent. So that's two 4-star tight ends. Offensive line. Any thoughts on those guys, Pete? Aside from, I know you love your boy Hezi Clark.
Well, hold on a second. Jose Sosa says you only mentioned 3 receivers.
No, in this one, so Tristan Keys, Samarian Wingo, Jason Lopez, and Van Spafford. And this is, again, it's just an exercise. It's not a projected class. But I went with those 4 because...
Unless something changes, I don't see Lopez in this class, D. That's me.
Yeah,
I mean, I heard something else last week, but I don't. The basketball thing is very important to him. Basketball thing is very important to him.
Listen,
and I don't know if that's changing. But
it'd be a shame. Honestly, look, I love what Jay Lucas is doing. I think that'd be kind of it doesn't make sense to me, especially if you have a walk-on in that position. Jason Lopez could be better than all your guys. It's not like you're crawling with guards anyways.
Yeah, the problem is, and I think I told you this the other day, I'm pretty sure there's still a rule where, like, if a guy's on scholarship for football and he plays basketball, it still counts as a basketball scholarship, because before, guys were coming in playing one sport and they were doing it to save a scholarship for another sport. And that's not, it doesn't, they were doing it to get around the scholarship numbers. I think that has something to do with it. And look, he's offered now Calvin Russell in this class, right? There's only so many guys you can fill up the roster with that are not your own sport. I don't know how many guys Mario would be taking if Jay Lucas needed basketball.
I'll tell you what, I bet he'd take a lot, because if they get
also he has 85 scholarships, so that's the difference.
Yeah. Well, it's actually 105 potentially here, but it's the
more
money
now. Yeah,
it's the money, right? So the money would be paid by football. Not that like he'd be paid as a football player.
Yeah.
So yeah, he takes a spot on your team, but he's helping you. He's your 13th, 14th man. He's not going to complain. He's not going to hop in the portal. He's going to compete. He's going to be tougher than probably most of your kids. So, I mean, is it bad basketball roster construction to have your 13th and 14th men be decent, solid basketball players?
Jay doesn't want to have that many guys on the team.
That's what I'm saying. But he
wants to have 11 or 12. So, from what I understand. So I don't know. There's a lot that goes into it, but I think the Lopez situation will be tougher because of basketball.
Yeah, look, I mean, what if it happens that, one of those two goes sideways? So let's just say again, and this is not based on any kind of information. Let's say that that this guy goes sideways.
Russell goes Syracuse, and then Lopez is there, and you make that last minute push for him.
Yeah, it would kill me if this guy did not go to Miami and went somewhere else, because I think
we already know how that one's gonna go.
He'll be amazing. I really think he's the best player down here as far as receivers right now. I mean, look, Russell has the most upside, but if you ask me to bet on who I think is going to end up being the best one, in my opinion, I think it would be Lopez. I just don't see him failing.
This is bad, dude. Juan Manuel Ventura says that he was banned by a mod on CanesInSight. We got to get that fixed, man.
I just checked. He's not banned. I literally was just checking that right now when he said that. Hey, Juan Manuel, go sign in. And you're there. Send me a message, but you're in there. I just checked you. But yeah, sign up for CanesInSight.com. 7.4 million posts and counting, all free. People going crazy this visit weekend. Baseball coverage is booming. Baseball forums going nuts. We'll talk baseball here in a second once we get through this class. But yeah, Juan Manuel, you're still good. But anyway, so that's what I got a receiver. There's different ways to mix and match it, but I think Keys and Spafford, out of state guys that are marquee guys. I see a lot of things lining up with both of those guys that I like. But you can mix and match as well. Messiah Hampton, we talked to him this weekend. He said he liked Miami. He said he got the feeling he got when he was first on campus at Miami, which is that he wants to go here. So that was pretty encouraging. He'll visit Oregon midweek and then Syracuse. So he's another name you can kind of add. There's others too. Braden Robinson, the very fast slot receiver from Texas. There's a couple guys. Zion Robinson, another fast Texas guy, track guy. So I'm probably missing a couple, but those are some names. Offensive line, most of these names: Jackson Cantwell, Joel Irvin, J.J. Sparks, Reese Woodrow. The two that Miami is still after very hard, I'm giving them both in this realistic Grand Slam class, because Miami would take both. And that's going to be Brett Collier the offensive lineman from IMG. Georgia's in there. Colorado likes him. UF's trying to get into that mix. Oklahoma's trying to get into that mix. He's a very talented interior lineman. And Cannon Pickett, Miami legacy. Clemson making a really, really hard push for Cannon Pickett. Miami needs to get that one done. But that's someone that Miami would love to land. They never stopped recruiting him. Clemson, like I said, is taking their best shot. But Miami would love to get him. He was just on the visit to Clemson. So let's see what Clemson says. Clemson just did an update. Here we go. So hot off the presses, guys. And we've been saying I like Cannon Pickett. I like the Canes for Cannon Pickett. Cannon Pickett was on on Clemson's big official visit weekend. He said, and here's what the update is from Clemson. So just for guys who don't know, Clemson brings a ton of guys here to campus all at once to see like if they can close on them. And they basically say they push them to commit, right? Clemson does things a little differently. And they bring all these guys on campus and push them to commit. So they had a bunch of guys on campus this weekend, including some Miami targets. We'll talk about Blake Stewart in a second, who was another guy that was on target. But Cannon Pickett, they say, here's what Clemson says. You can't win them all. It's especially hard when you're dealing with multiple alums in the extended family. Pickett's father played at Miami in the 1990s, and his older brother is now on the roster. Going to be hard to beat the hometown Hurricanes. So Clemson is putting a huge, huge priority on Cannon Pickett. They're trying to get him, but didn't seem like they got that one done. So I feel confident. I have felt confident in the past on Cannon Pickett. So when Clemson has him on campus, takes their best shot, and he's still leaning to Miami, I like Miami for Cannon Pickett. So let's give Cannon Pickett and Brett College to the Canes in this exercise. On the defensive side of the ball, defensive end, right? Ashari Charles has been projected to the Canes a ton. The undersized, explosive defensive end from Venice, 4-star player, fits well in the boundary in this scheme. We've recruited him very hard. I like that one. Let's say, and that's, there's a dream projection, but I like that one for the Canes. We'll give him Daniel Norman, who was on campus this weekend, defensive end from St. Thomas, twitchy. I liked how he looked in person. I liked, he made a good impression on me in person, just seeing him, seeing how he looked, seeing how he acted. This is the kind of guy, he's got a lot of explosiveness. He's not there right now, but if this guy goes to like an Oklahoma, like a Nick Bonito, and I just picked a random school, but a Nick Bonito who left St. Thomas because Miami thought he had too much work to do, or Mason Thomas who left Cardinal Gibbons and goes to Oklahoma. I'm just picking Oklahoma randomly because they've done well with these guys. Those are big time pass rushers, so you can't have those guys going elsewhere. And I think Norman, after seeing him in person, he's a guy, the developmental prospect that makes sense for the Canes. So then the last defensive end I've added here on this realistic dream class would be Anthony Tank Jones from Mobile, Alabama. Did some digging on Anthony Jones because I'm like, why are so many national writers confident that Miami can beat out Alabama and Auburn? He's from Mobile, Alabama. He's a top 20 player in the country. So I did some digging. Miami loves the kid, loves the player, basketball player, wide receiver on offense, state champion discus, powerful in the shot put as well, great football player. So I'm like, why is this guy even in the mix? Turns out that Auburn, the coach that was recruiting him, is going to, or left right in the middle of recruiting him. So he was basically building a relationship with the coach who left Auburn staff. So when that happens, it throws the whole recruitment off. We've seen it happen to us. On top of that, there's a 5-star defensive end from Pensacola Catholic, obviously right next to Alabama, named Trenton Henderson, number 28 player nationally. So basically ranked very similar, 6'4", 225, kind of like the same type of player, right? And seems like Auburn is prioritizing Trenton Henderson. Not that they're not recruiting Anthony Jones. Anthony Jones is a 5-star player, and from talking to people, everybody knows he's a 5-star player. It's not like he's like overrated or anything. But Auburn has, a lot of guys. So they said 2 guys similar. We're kind of putting more energy on this guy who's just as close to us as Mobile, right? I think, Pete, you're an Alabama expert. I mean, there's not that much difference between Pensacola to Auburn and Mobile to Auburn, right?
Yeah. Mobile to Auburn may be a little bit longer, but yeah, it's not. These are very, very manageable trips. Pensacola to Mobile is like 50 minutes.
So, Yeah, so let's see. I'm doing the math here, guys. We're doing some Google Maps. Mobile to Auburn, Alabama, which is in the northern part of Alabama, closer to
Hour and a
Atlanta.
half, 2 hours?
3 hours.
3 hours, yeah, longer.
And then Pensacola is probably the same thing as my guess.
Pensacola to Mobile is a quick one, but
right, but to Auburn, probably gonna be it's same thing, 3 hours. So same distance for both these guys. So there's two basically guys in the same area that play the same position, and it seems like they like Trenton Henderson more, right? 2 5-stars, they picked one. So that gives an opportunity for a team like Miami that's telling Anthony Jones, hey man, you're a 5-star. We love you. You're a stud. You're a great kid. You're a great athlete. You're versatile. You're tough. We want you to be a Cane. We want you to be coached by Jason Taylor. You could see how that would be enticing for an Anthony Tank Jones, who had a great visit this week. And again, I'll get more intel as the week goes on. So I think that's why there's a window there for an Anthony Jones. Alabama's done a really bad job of recruiting locally the last couple of years for whatever reason. They got their clocks cleaned last year. They didn't get anybody locally. They did a great job nationally, but didn't do anything in Alabama. So I think Alabama's just taking a more national recruiting approach in general. They're not as good in state as they have been. Auburn is a team that's been cleaning up in state, but again, there's this issue I just laid out to you. So that created an opening for Anthony Jones from what I'm told this weekend went well. And he's one guy that national people that are very familiar with the dynamics of all these teams are saying, hey, Miami's got a real shot here. So, yeah, that's what to keep an eye on. I put him in all these classes. I'm not ready to predict him to the class. I got to do some more digging and talk to some more people. But, Anthony Jones is a name to watch. So, Pete, what do you think about that DEN class? Anthony Jones, Ashari Charles, and then Daniel Norman.
I know that people inside love – there are some people that love Ashari Charles, and I know he's not doesn't – but just with his measurables is not going to wow you, but his explosiveness, his first step, there are people in there who think his ceiling can be very, very high in this system, like you mentioned. And Norman, I haven't seen enough of, but I have seen enough South Florida pass rushers go elsewhere who have projectable frames like that to let a guy like that just walk out of here. So. Yeah, you land those two guys with your 5-star in Anthony Jones, and you have to feel pretty good about what that would be.
Yep, that would be a huge win. All right, so now getting into the real dream part of this realistic dream class, and we've gotten some questions here, so I want to get into them before we get to the meat of it, because I'm talking about Lamar Brown, the defensive tackle out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, goes to school right on campus. Again, I'm still trying to get the full scoop on our boy Lamar Brown, but he's a 5-star player. He's been all over social media talking about the Canes, talking about how people are sleeping on Miami's recruitment. He loves the 305, did the whole photo shoot, posted that. Jackson Cantwell posted on his. We talked about Jackson Cantwell's recruiting impact. Jackson Cantwell posted on Lamar Brown's picture. Lamar Brown said, he said, we need you here. He did like the eye emoji, the usual Instagram interaction that P probably grew tired of 3 years ago after watching all this stuff forever.
Longer.
And then Lamar Brown also commented on Tristan Keys' post with his photo shoot, kind of with same nonsense, the eyes, whatever. So he's doing the social media thing. Anthony Mazzano asking, are most schools recruiting Lamar Brown as a defensive tackle or offensive tackle? I think defensive tackle at this point. He could play both. He could play guard. But I know from Miami's standpoint, they view him as an elite defensive tackle. Trey Moore saying, do you think Lamar Brown's trolling Miami, or do you think it's real? I think it's real. I don't think it's trolling. Do I think that means he's coming here? I heard, look, LSU is going to be a factor for him. He's right there on campus. His high school's on LSU's campus. I've heard Texas A&M is actually probably a bigger threat than LSU right now. The Texas A&M is the one he's been visiting unofficially. They've been really working that one. So Texas A&M and LSU clear favors going into the weekend. I think Miami's made up a lot of ground and given them options. And when you're in the game, a coach leaves or there's a disrespectful moment in a visit. Things happen in recruiting that you don't know about that leaves windows. So when you're in the game like this and Miami's prioritizing Lamar Brown, they want him badly. There's an opportunity there. So that to me is the one. But we get a lot of baseball questions, man. Usually the baseball, half people love it, half people don't. So we're gonna get to baseball here. So don't worry, we're gonna get all your baseball questions answered here in a second. So keep them coming in the chat. But yeah, a Lamar Brown, I think, is a possibility. And in this scenario, which is a dream class that's realistic, I'm penciling him in there. Other defensive tackle, I put in Keyshawn Stansel from the Raleigh, North Carolina area. Love what he can do. He's a quick guy. He has height, seeing in person. He still needs to get a little stronger. He's not like the biggest guy right now. He's under 300 pounds. He'll put on some weight. But he's a guy that you feel good about. Seemed like a great kid. And he was like smiling year to year about Miami. Still got a lot of visits coming up. I think he's going to Penn State, NC State, couple other, Tennessee, I believe. So he's got some nice visits on the horizon. You got to survive those. But he's visited unofficially. Miami visited him also in spring. So a lot of contact with Keyshawn Stansel. He brought his mom on his visit, loved it. So that's one I would watch. Kyle Lauren Kane saying, Miami is extremely elite. Appreciate your support. Let's see if we can get it done, man. Certainly an elite city. Oh, wait. Some nerd named Tom Lloyd crystal balled Keys to Tennessee. Is that what's going on now? I haven't seen. Let's see what's going on.
Loy's pretty good normally. He was one of the early people on the early, I say, but when the Cantwell, the tides were turning there about 24 hours before, he was one of the people dropping those nuggets.
Yeah, we were talking about Cantwell in February, but
yeah, I get it, but I'm just saying it's not like that's what I said though. I mean.
No, I know. So on the crystal ball to Keys, that's
listen. Sheesh, man. Someone puts a crystal ball at another school, you get your panties in a bunch, man. Golly.
He is. People want you to go at me in the chat today. They've been waiting for it. So
listen, I'm not going at you.
I know you're waiting in the wings.
Listen, I know we like to get on other people, but Loy's pretty solid from what I understand.
I like Loy. No, Loy's good. Honestly, man, I like most of these guys do a good job. I'm not a hater with this kind of stuff. He does do a good job. And in fact, that crystal ball is from October 2024. So
there you go.
Shout out Casey and welcome to the live. So that's on that. So, okay. So defensive tackle, Lamar Brown, Keyshawn Stansel. I mean, look, Pete, I don't know what your thoughts are on this whole thing. My view, again, Texas A&M and LSU, hard to beat. He's definitely created the impression he's open. Miami is valuing him, which means they're trying to get him, which involves a lot of stuff. And we'll see, maybe there's an opening.
Yeah. Would find it hard to land him and Brown, but we'll see.
Yeah. So let's see here. So that's again on the realistic number one or realistic class. That is a dream class. Linebacker, I put Jordan Campbell. He's committed from Miami Northwestern. He visited Florida State this weekend. I think he might have had a girlfriend up there. I don't know if that's true or not, but I can't imagine any other reason why you'd go up to Tallahassee. I'm not worried about them there. If they get him, great. He'll decommit after they lose a lot of games. Jermichael Garrett, who has kind of been off and on with Miami, but I heard lately it's on. Also an Alabama kid. I threw him in there. Linebacker's a little murkier. You could put J.J. Edwards there, the linebacker from Orlando who had a really good spring, tested well, performed well in the spring game. I wouldn't bat an eye. I put Jermichael Garrett in there just as a highly rated linebacker that we're in the mix for. Safeties, I put Devin Jackson and Blake Stewart. Blake Stewart's an interesting one because he's been talked about to go to Clemson potentially, and he was part of that big visit weekend in Clemson. And from what I saw from Clemson's report, they were basically saying, yeah, we have a chance, but we think it's a Michigan-Miami battle. And Miami's been working that one for a while. At other points, it's looked like we were going to get a commitment from Blake Stewart. There's the Atlanta safety, 4-star player. Also another one that had a really, really good spring. Yeah, I'm just hearing great things on him just from people who have seen him play recently. Really athletic guy. So Blake Stewart is one that I could see in the mix. Here's what Clemson said about him. Ultimately, I think this one comes down to Michigan and Miami, but I wouldn't consider Clemson out completely, play the long game. So that tells me Michigan, Miami, coming off Clemson's big weekend, and Miami's had been confident there in the past. Devin Jackson, the big, super athletic safety from Orlando, he visited unofficially this spring, just like Stewart did as well. Decommitted from Florida, tons of schools on him. He's going to visit. So I like, kind of a follow the business situation there. He's top of Miami's board right there with Blake Stewart at safety. Corner, Jalen Waters committed. Jontavius Wyman committed. Cannon Porter's committing. I'm giving them Brody Jennings, 4-star corner out of Jacksonville, we talked about him a bunch. Tragic situation with his father, Bradley, former FSU linebacker from the city of Miami, passing away this week suddenly from a heart attack. Our prayers go out to his family. Just a horrible situation. But the guy still visited, which is just, I mean, what a whirlwind week. But he took the official visit. I think his mom was there. His brother, Bradley, who played for Miami as a linebacker, was there. His sister's committed to his sister is at Miami as a track runner. So maybe it was just, the family being together, right? That could be another thing about it because the family's originally from Miami. So maybe that's part of this. But ultimately, he took the official visit. I heard it went very well from his side. And I know Miami loves Brody Jennings. They think he's one of the best man cover corners in America. They think they've been trying to flip him ever since he committed to Michigan. So that to me makes sense. So with that dream realistic class, you were talking about the 303.93 overall rating. If you land, and this is with Lamar Brown, this is with, Tristan Keys, this is with Anthony Jones. So there's a lot of nice battles here that you're winning to get this one done. But if you do land those players, last year you would have been the number 3 class in the country, right behind Texas and Georgia, right behind Texas and Georgia. The year before, you would have been also the number 3 class in the country out of Oregon. So basically, you do this, you get this done, you're talking about a top 3 class. So Pete, I mean, I don't know, how do you see this whole thing kind of falling here as far as am I being too unrealistic here with these? I mean, I know, look, we're projecting bets going to the ties going to the runner here.
I mean, look, I'm not. I don't think that you're being too optimistic. I see Keys as a legit possibility. I think Brown, from what I understand, is a legit possibility. I do think that there probably will be some sort of financial restrictions that end up coming up here, just because, like, people who are following this over the week, I got a text from a buddy of mine who watches the show this week. And he's like, how do we have money for Cantwell, Brown, Keys? And look, of course, Canes Connection, canesconnection.com/CIS to go sign up and get your first month free. But I just think that once it comes down to it, I don't know that some of these defensive linemen are very, very, expensive, right? So are you going to land after Keys and Lamar Brown? I'm skeptical. The Tank Jones one, I understand there's the Auburn thing, with Trent Henderson, right? Who they're recruiting as well. That one to me seems still a little bit tougher, right? But yeah, I think Keys and Lamar Brown, to me, you're in a good position for.
Yeah, so Lamar Brown to me is the one. And again, I haven't got my intel yet on this weekend. So this is all just based on what I knew going in and just following recruiting since 1999, which is 26 years ago. So here are some, if it was me, just based on the information I've gathered to this point, again, I'm going to give you the bank with all the information possible. I would say, I think we'll get a Tristan Keys or a Calvin Russell. We'll get one of the two at least. I think we're going to get one. I think. I don't know, but the will is there financially. Your offense had a great year. You've had them on campus a ton, both those guys. I think we'll get one. Maybe I'm wrong. Between Lamar Brown and Anthony Jones, I think we have a better shot. Both 5-star players from the South. Anthony Jones, man, we've gotten players from Mobile, Alabama, right? So that's not unrealistic. Now, they're not necessarily guys we had to go fight Auburn for, but we gotten guys from that area. To Cole McConaughey, Bobby Pruitt last year, and then 2 years ago. And then we got Dalen Upshaw, another Alabama kid last year. So there's Alabama guys on the roster. But beyond that, we've won battles in the Deep South under Mario. Night Carr comes to mind. Jason Taylor's won elite battles at defensive end against top schools, right? Hayden Lowe comes to mind. And then you think of 2024. We got Armando Blunt. We got Justin Scott. And we got Marquise Lightfoot, all 5-star players, all, expensive, right? Georgia, teams like that, they get these guys. So it's a two-part thing. It's not just paying them. It's like you got to get them to want to come to your school, and then you got to pay them what it costs, which is a lot. So I think we're doing good on that first part of the recruiting side of things, which gives you a chance to say, okay, listen, maybe this is a little over our budget, but this kid wants to come. and let's pay him his market rate is. So I think there's some of that going on. But if those two, I kind of feel it on Anthony Jones. I could be wrong, and I'm just not based on any information right now. I'm trying to find out. I heard it was 50-50 with Auburn going into the weekend, and he had a great visit. And the fact that Auburn's, has those openings, those weaknesses, that creates an opportunity. Here we go. Ulysses Perez, Closure Investigative Agency. Shout out if you need a private investigator. CIA is the place to go. Ulysses Perez, Closure Investigative. He says, Canes top 3 class, book it. Also, Pete, friendly reminder, the last time the Knicks won anything, Phil Jackson played for them.
Listen, for as long as it's been, it's still the most relevant franchise in the NBA, and they get talked about more than anyone else. No one cares about them irrelevant ass Heat.
See, yeah, no one cares.
Appreciate obviously the support, Ulysses, but the Heat suck.
Yeah, let's congrats to the Knicks on their best season in 20 years, and they're not.
And getting talked about. We're box office. We're box office, baby.
Yeah,
you already know. You already know what's coming now. Get rid of Cat. Mix things around. And that's the beautiful thing about the Knicks organization. We don't rest on our laurels. We make changes, and we don't live on hype from these previous seasons with overrated Spo, overrated Riley, who hasn't done anything since bringing LeBron to Miami. Organization's messed up, terrible ownership, terrible organization. It is what it is, D. I'm sorry.
Yeah, listen, when I think star power, I don't think about, Wade, LeBron, Shaq, Jimmy Butler. I think of Jalen Brunson.
Dude, stop living. Stop living. Yeah, you're living 15 years ago. Exactly. So there you go. You're living. You're talking about the past with the New York Knicks, and you're living 15 years in the past.
Yeah, actually, I'm living about 2 years in the past when the Heat
years in the past for doing the same thing that the Knicks just did, right? So stop it. Stop it. I'm upset about how the season ended because the standard's different in New York. Not like in Miami where you're hanging banners for players who didn't even play for your organization. The standard's different in New York, man. This is it. Yeah, I'm upset. I'm upset because we didn't win the championship. You guys in Miami are happy for doing what? LeBron left. The organization's been finished, man.
So congratulations to the Knicks on making the Eastern Conference Finals. They have not been to the finals in 25 years. Am I had that right?
I'm upset.
And then before that, it was.
But you're living in the past once again. The Heat. Riley has not made a relevant move since when? Since LeBron James, right? Giving all these terrible contracts out, setting the organization back years. They should have been tanking, but you guys live in purgatory. You guys love it in purgatory.
So
am I wrong?
Make sure I understand you, Pete. So Jalen Brunson.
You said Jimmy Butler was going to lead you guys to a championship. I told you guys years ago he was a third option at best on a championship team.
So Jalen Brunson, who has not led any team to the finals, and in fact was bounced by a mediocre Indiana team.
This is where the Heat fans do this stuff. I'm not sitting here calling Jalen Brunson the best player in the league or a championship, the number one on a championship team. I do think they need to go get something else. Delusional Heat fans for years have made themselves believe they have enough. They have enough. They have enough. As a Knicks fan, I'm not saying the Knicks have enough.
Yeah, because you haven't had enough in about 50 years. So that 55.
Yeah, and again, still being talked about as the most valuable top, up there with the Warriors, the most valuable franchise in the NBA. Bro, no one cares about the Heat. It's an irrelevant organization.
Yeah, a very relevant organization that has completely dominated the Knicks since 2000? So about 25 years.
Really? How have the last couple of years gone for the Heat?
All right.
Huh? You talk about recency. We're talking about the last couple of years now. How have the last couple of years gone for the Heat, and how have they gone for the Knicks? Tell me. You want to talk about recency? Let's do it.
Pete, I'm letting you talk just to get your thoughts out. 2 finals, which the Knicks have not done in 25 years.
Okay, there you go. So you get you get your celebrations for making the finals. You get the balloons. That's exactly what the Heat organization does: hanging banners, celebrating, not winning a championship.
What the Knicks organization does is talk quite a bit, fill up the air.
Who's talking? No. People talk about the Knicks because we're box office. That's what happens.
So when you go to the box office, you say, hey, listen, I want to see a team that has not made the finals in 25 years.
Apparently,
I want to see
so everyone cares about the New York Knicks so much, man. Little old New York Knicks that haven't won anything. Gets you guys worked. Gets you guys worked up, right? Why are you worried about us then?
I am calm. You're the one that's been talking for 5 minutes about a team that made the Eastern Conference Finals and they're throwing a parade. For us, the Eastern Conference Finals.
Listen, that's because the fan base is passionate, man. That's because the fan base is the most passionate. Basketball's culture there. Basketball is come on, man. LeBron left. No one cares about this organization. LeBron gave this organization the best years of his career. He brought them, elevated the organization as a whole, as did Big Diesel O'Neal. And it's been an irrelevant organization since.
So if the Heat going to Eastern Conference or winning the Eastern Conference, is irrelevant, which they have done, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
What's happened the last couple of years? What's happened the last couple of years?
So what's happened? The Knicks have done.
What's happened? Hold on a second. What's happened the last couple of years?
The last 4 years?
No. But see, you're manipulating. You're bending time now. Since LeBron left, the Heat are 50-50 to make the playoffs every year, every single year. And by the way, giving the fans, I feel for you Heat fans, D, because the organization tries to give you guys this false hope every year. And you just rest on your laurels and you strike out on whales. No one wants to go play for that organization. No one wants to go play for that ownership group. I mean, dude, the facts speaks for themselves.
You done talking, Pete? Yeah. Okay. So you asked what the Heat done the last 4 years. They went to the finals, which I believe the Knicks have not done since the millennium. They
didn't do anything with it.
They went to the Eastern Conference Finals, which for you guys was enough to have Chamalay and Jenner and all these people coming out of the woodwork because they were so excited about making.
Listen, they're not out of the woodwork. They've been supporting, but again, this is very rich. Talking about bandwagon, talking about a bandwagon organization, Miami Heat bandwagons. Please, bro.
All right, let's talk. Someone's blaming Mike Ryan for this podcast because they got you talking. They got you talking Heat. Look, man. I mean, congrats on the Eastern Conference Finals. Sorry you couldn't.
Most relevant organization in the NBA, man.
Okay. You should start hanging out. You should start.
Listen, this is the same stuff you say about the Canes, about how Miami's relevant now. It's exactly what it is.
Pete,
is it not?
What about the Canes?
You talk about how great it is that they're talking about the Canes because of what Cam Ward did last year, because of the video game stuff. So it's good being talked about. It's good being relevant, right? That's what I'm saying with the Knicks.
You know, you mentioned the banners. Given that you haven't won anything in about 50 years, you probably should start hanging on maybe Bruno Sammartino, maybe Billy Joel. Some of these guys.
Yeah, but you guys have Dan Marino banners of guys who didn't even play the sport. Please, man, loser mentality. I'd rather not hang a banner than hang these fake banners of players that didn't even play for my team. That's weak.
Well, look, you got that option of not hanging banners because you haven't won anything. So congratulations to the New York Knicks for having all that space for banners. I'm sure the value of that space is quite a bit. Maybe one day the Rangers can win some stuff that you could put in there and fit in for all the space.
Most iconic venue in sports, man. Everyone wants to be us, man.
You know, I would like to be number one. That's why we're talking about the number one class. Let's transition back to the Miami Hurricanes. Let you have your space to get that emotion out after a tough loss to the Indiana Pacers. Congrats to the Indiana Pacers.
Love playing
on the New York Knicks once again.
Listen, you said, I should hang a banner for it, just like you guys did.
All right, so let's get into the where this class ranks. We're talking about a 303, which would be again a top 5 class, or top 3 class the last 2 years. Switching gears to what I would say is like a home run class or Grand Slam class, right? So this is like everything going Miami's way. We're not worried about money. We're just talking to Ulysses CIS throwing you $2 for the pain that you felt. So, you know, good luck to the Knicks as they rebuild. And
there's no rebuild. Let's go add another piece and get to that's the difference between the Knicks and the Heat. The Heat will rest on their laurels and do the same stuff they do every year and be back in the same position they're in.
Yeah, no, we no way we could win the Eastern Conference with undrafted players. We could never do that. So going here to
different standard,
the Grand Slam class. This is again no respect for money, just kind of saying guys that like us, and we're giving us all of them. say Darian Coleman, quarterback, Derek Cooper at running back, Javian Mallory at running back, Tristan Keys, Vance Spafford. Let's give Calvin Russell and Tristan Keys to the Canes, Jason Lopez, Briggs and Kent, same offensive line group that we talked about before. Instead of defensive end, instead of the developmental prospect and Daniel Norman, let's give us a high 4-star developmental process in Jaquez Wilkes. He visited unofficially this spring. He's going to visit officially, I believe, next week, later on this month. Jason Taylor visited him over there in Alabama. He's wide open. Let's give us Jaquez Wilkes. Defensive tackle, let's give us Lamar Brown. Why not? Let's give us James Johnson, the defensive tackle from Miami Northwestern. He's local. He had a home run defensive tackle haul like he had in 24. And then the same for the DBs. So in that Grand Slam class, you're talking about 312, which will be a competitor for number 1 overall. Not guaranteed to be that. It would have been number 1 last year. It would have been number 2 in 2024. But if you land that Grand Slam, you're talking about, a really, really good chance to be the number 1 class. These are all guys that have visited unofficially and are visiting officially as well. So it's not totally unrealistic. Trying to tone it down a little bit in terms of like a realistic good close. So this is not the Grand Slam or a home run, but let's call it a solid double, right? So you get Coleman, you get Cooper, you get Keys, because Keys is in every one of these scenarios when you're in the top 5. But we don't get College A in this scenario. Let's say College A goes to Georgia, we get Pickett. Defensive tackle, let's say you get Stansel, but let's say we go one of the 3-star defensive tackles like a Freddie Wilson, maybe an Anthony Kennedy who visited this weekend. And then let's say linebacker J.J. Edwards, the 3-star, high 3-star from Orlando. So this is a more realistic class. You're still getting Anthony Jones. You're still getting Tristan Keys in this scenario. You're still getting Derek Cooper. You do that, still got a chance as the top 5 class. Number 5 last year with a 293 ranking. Number 3, 2024. So really, the way I see it is top 5 class, you got to get a Keys, maybe a Russell instead of a Keys, but someone in that category. You got to get one of these big-time defensive linemen, whether it's Anthony Jones or Lamar Brown, and you got to get Derek Cooper. You do all that, maybe get a Vance Spafford, some of these other guys we talked about, and you're going up to that top 5 range. Comments going nuts on this on the Knicks here. A lot of Albert McKenney. So my brother's a Knicks fans and he's mad salty too, Pete. So you got some folks to commiserate.
I'm not salty. I'm not salty one bit. I'm just, it's the audacity of the Heat fans is something else, dude. It really is. Yeah, since LeBron left, it's 50-50 since you guys make the playoffs, dude. You guys talk like an organization that have won 10 titles since LeBron left. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, in the past decade, we've been 50-50 to, make the Eastern Conference.
To make the what? To make the what? No, man, stop.
A party for
stop.
In the past decade.
So do that math. Go do that math for me then. Golly.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Years, we made 3 of them. You
said 10 years. You said the last 10 years.
You didn't have to go that far. I said this decade.
You just said the last 10 years.
It says 2020. This decade, 2020. The 2020.
You just said in the last 10
twice,
years.
And you made the Eastern Conference once. It's 2025. So do the math.
And still irrelevant, man. Still completely irrelevant.
All right, let's talk baseball here before we get too far off track. By the way, if you want to land in basketball, there's a salary cap. So unfortunately, incompetent organizations like the Knicks suffer. Teams that get undrafted free agents to the NBA Finals, like the Heat, prosper. But luckily, in college sports, there is no salary cap. So a lot of times, the teams with the best collective and best recruiters like Mario have the opportunity to stack some of these high-value players. CanesConnection.com/CIS. Sign up today. Don't look at other people doing it for you. Take charge. Be part of it. Do it yourself. You get exclusive info, exclusive giveaways. You get access to a private Zoom chat with me. I'll wrap up these visits, give you the information that I can't say here for public consumption. They can get aggregated, private setting. You'll be the number 1 insider in your group chat, in your fan base, in your family. CanesConnection.com/CIS. CanesConnection.com/CIS today. People asking you to hydrate, get them something to drink. It's getting a little hot, Birdstone says. Big salty. We got the Knicks. I know is a topic close to your heart, you and Chamalay and all these guys. Do you know who Chamalay is? Yeah.
No, I don't.
All right. So let's talk about the real big game. It's not the NBA Finals. It's not even recruiting. It is the regional final for the Canes going against Southern Miss. Winner advances to the field of 16. The loser, their season's done. Last night, tough loss. Tate Durias, the freshman, who's been very big for Miami down the stretch since he came in the starting lineup, getting Miami to this point. Just didn't have it. There was a lot. First of all, it was a weird, he hadn't started in 14 games. And there was like weird delays. There were a couple of calls that took forever to get done. So he was standing around for a lot of the time. And then he just didn't have it. He was, even if he got to 2 strikes, he did not have that off-speed pitch to put the batters away. So they were teeing up on his fastball, crushing it. And, huge first inning. I believe it was 10 runs in the first inning, 9 runs in the first inning. So it was kind of over before it started. Miami made it close, got to 10-5, had some opportunities with men in scoring position, couldn't cash in. After that, kind of went away. By the end of the game, they were throwing position players. But the good news, you do have a lot of arms left that you haven't used a ton. You got Reese Lumpkin, your midweek starter. He's going to probably most likely pitch tonight. I think he might probably start. I don't know that for a fact, but that's someone you look at. Will Smith, one of your top relievers. You still have Brian Walters, your closer. Carson Fisher, who's been your top long reliever. He should be available as well. So a lot of arms left for Miami, but you got to get it done, man, because if you don't win, it's a long day. Some questions about JD Arteaga not taking Tate out earlier. I don't know. I mean, he had 2 outs for a while. You were hoping he'd get out of it. It just didn't get done. So see today, man, this is the game, biggest game for Canes baseball in years. So, we'll see what happens. A lot of JD talk in the comments. Blues saying it's going to be a war zone tonight. Yeah, I heard Hattiesburg seems like an awesome environment. This will be a road game for the Canes, playing the team that's hosting. It was a pretty good environment yesterday. I think tonight it's going to be even more insane. It's at 9. So it's going to be bumping. It's funny. 30 Rock saying, Pete, you're a good guy. Seriously, stay away from Mike Ryan. He's the reason for all this tension. I think people don't see like our actual lives. Like this is probably more similar to normal conversation on sports topics than than anything else. We don't usually agree. We've been agreeing more so on the show for the sake of the kids, We've been keeping the sports fandom together on the show. But Pete's this is Pete in every single group chat that he's ever been a part of, pretty much, and social media, and real life, quite frankly. But what else we got, Pete? We got 11:30, 1,100 people on. Like and subscribe to this show if you have not done so. But Pete, what do you got going on?
Just rooting hard for the Canes tonight.
There we go. That's one thing we can't agree on. Go Canes. Let's pull up the Twitter here. So want to talk about Canes Connection and also 2 friends of ours, Canes Connection, the island of Bahamas, which is not a sponsor, but maybe they should be. We got to get that sponsorship, Pete. Pete, you got connections in the Bahamas? What's the guy that was the GM for the Bahamian National?
LJ Rose.
Holler at your boy LJ Rose from Canes basketball. We got to get a sponsorship with Island of the Bahamas, man. They're sponsored everything. But Canes Connection and the Bahamas are teaming up with the Miami Hurricane team store, number 1 spot for Miami Hurricanes apparel. And this Saturday, 1 to 2 p.m., right there on South Dixie Highway in front of the University of Miami. Look at this all-star lineup. You got Ruben Bain, you got Markel Bell, you got CJ Daniels, and you got Francis Malinoa, autographs, pictures, you name it, live in the team store. This is something you cannot miss. Saturday, 1 to 2 p.m., Hurricane team store. All-Americans, first-round picks, big-time players for your Canes. Great kids as well. I've interviewed 3 of these guys. I haven't met Markel Bell, but you interviewed him. You guys shared a Bell Burger at Pop Subs. So these are just good dudes, right? I mean, these are the kind of guys you want to meet. It's not like they're doing you a favor. It's just good kids to meet, good young men to meet and take pictures, take your kids. Just going to be a lot of fun, that event, right? You could co-sign these dudes, but you talk to most of these guys.
Yep.
So Miami Hurricane team store, you know where to go. A-Rab saying that F1 race was fire with Max and Russell. Have you had that stage yet, Pete? Or is that on the horizon yet, your F1 stage?
Not my thing.
And I know you're a man of the world. But all right, man. So that's what we got. We'll see what happens. I'll have the bank tomorrow. We'll have some more recruiting talk. Hopefully not more Knicks talk. We'll save that for the next time to make the Eastern Conference Finals in 2045. Pete, any predictions for the NBA finals?
No, I just know that neither of our teams are winning it, and the Knicks won't be hanging a banner for a conference semifinal or conference finals appearance. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, shout out
or for a player that didn't play for the organization.
Shout out to Mark Anthony, sellout, the most sellouts in the history of the Kaseya Center, hanging proudly in the Raptors. I remember seeing him sing the national anthem at the NBA Finals, which I was blessed to witness in person as a Miami Heat fan. Let's beat Southern Miss tonight. Let's go Canes. We will hopefully have a reaction show celebrating that one. Got Sebastian Font on location. Biggest game around, man. Tune in at 9 and Saturday. Mark your calendars 1 to 2 at the team store. Huge autograph session. Go Canes. Go Heat. Like and subscribe.